at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters of the Resistance. Tuesday, June 18th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, as always, hoping to be your MBFF. And we are in the thick of it. It is on. 504 days. You know until when. The most important election of our lives. I said that in 2017, leading up to 2018, and I counted it down, and I sincerely meant that. That was, at that time, the most important election of our lives. Well, now we are 504 days from the most important election of our lives. Full stop, period. Whatever else you want to emphasize it, that's what's going on. And I don't need to tell you why. You know exactly why. And tonight, Donald Trump, in Orlando, Florida, not far from where the MAGA bomber was from, which is not a coincidence, I don't think, because nothing with Trump is a coincidence, is going to kick off his campaign, his re-election campaign, to be in the White House for 4 more years. Think about that for a second. 4 more years of Donald Trump after the next year and a half. How does that feel? Thinking about that, the idea of Trump continuing out there, demonizing minorities, just helping corporations, lashing out at the media, trying to destroy our institutions. How does that feel? And I hope that really upsets you. So whenever you think about, should I get involved, think about that orange creature, the orange white walker, for 4 more years. And today, Donald Trump, last night through today, he gave us a sort of a snapshot, coming attractions of what we can expect in 2020 campaign that's going on. First, he lied, and then he demonized minorities, and you can expect more. First, he tweeted last night, thousands of people already lined up in Orlando. That's where the event is tonight. Some 2 days before tomorrow night's big rally. So he tweeted that yesterday. The Orlando Sentinel, which one of the big papers, fact-checked it right away, saying at 3 p.m. yesterday, want to know how many people? When Trump was saying there were thousands, you want to know literally how many people were there? 50. Want to know how many were there last night at 9:30? About 250. But Trump says thousands because he's a liar. Then today, Donald Trump tweeted something which, again, tells you what Trump is about. We know what he's about, but it tells you exactly how he's thinking going to 2020. He tweets, the fake news doesn't report it, but Republican enthusiasm is at an all-time high. Listen to those words, Republican enthusiasm. Not American enthusiasm, no. Because Trump doesn't care about anyone except those who are loyal to him. Blindly loyal. As I've said countless times, Donald Trump is not my president, not because I'm being snarky, because he doesn't want to be my president. He wants to be king of his base, and the rest of us, he ignores or worse, demonizes us to make his base happy. That's what he's all about. And I love this fact. The Orlando Sentinel, which is the big paper in Orlando, in that part of Florida, today, put out an endorsement for 2020. And I'm not kidding. Their endorsement is not Donald Trump. And I'm not joking. This is a major paper. And they wrote, some readers will wonder how he could possibly eliminate a candidate so far before an election and before knowing the identity of his opponent. Adding, because there's no point pretending we would ever recommend that readers vote for Trump. After 2.5 years, we've seen enough. I agree with you. I think we've all seen enough. And I wrote an article for the Daily Beast today. You can check it out. It's on my Twitter feed at Dean Obeidallah. And it's locked today with they have a subscription thing now for the first 24 hours, but it'll be unlocked tomorrow morning. I hope you'll check it out. And when I wrote about very bluntly and honestly, and I filed this yesterday before Donald Trump tweeted about deporting 1 million people, is that here is the truth. And I'm going to be honest, not to scare anyone, just to state the facts so we understand what to expect going into this election. Donald Trump in 2016 spewed openly racism and bigotry. There's no denying it. And the fact that he's behind in the polls now makes him more dangerous. Means he's going to amplify the voices, the extreme voices that he needs to win this election. This election, I am predicting now on June 18th, 2019, our 2020 election with Donald Trump, will be the most hateful, bigoted, openly racist election in modern day presidential politics. Save this recording because I'm telling you that. And we saw previews over the weekend, and this got so little coverage in American media, but it got more in the UK. And there's a reason why. I'll share why in a second here. Donald Trump gave us a sense of what he's going to do and a reminder of what he did in 2016. He retweeted a notorious right-wing bigot, a white nationalist in the UK known as Katie Hopkins. And she attacked the mayor of London, who's a brown Muslim man, Sadiq Khan, and she said he was creating Londistan, and that's obviously not true, but it doesn't matter. This caused a backlash in the UK. In The Guardian and English papers. In the US, it got ignored by our media because I guess they don't know who Katie Hopkins is, so they didn't want to have to Google it and do a little work on their own. Let me give you a primer on the person Donald Trump retweeted. And just so it's clear, it's not an accident. Katie Hopkins was on The Apprentice in the UK several years ago. She's well known in the right-wing circles. Her world intersects our white nationalists all the time. So he knows who she is. That was not an accident. Katie Hopkins is such a racist, she is banned from the country of South Africa for her racism. She has shared the stage with Holocaust deniers. She called for a final solution of Muslims in the UK after 2017 Manchester bombing. The final solution, of course, was Hitler's solution for eliminating all Jews in this country. She recently promoted an event featuring American white nationalist Jared Taylor, a white supremacist per the Southern Poverty Law Center, who has praised Donald Trump for his efforts to slow down the dispossession of white people. This is who Donald Trump is praising. I mean, who's retweeting intentionally. That's not playing any games. This is intentional. This is playing to his base. Trump played this card before. In 2016, we saw it time and time again. He retweeted open white supremacists. Open white supremacists. He retweeted, and if you're not on Twitter, I'll explain retweet. You click a button, right? That's a retweet. And then you send it out to your Twitter followers. In the case of a person who had the Twitter name of White Genocide, which I think we all know white genocide. That's the signature white supremacist rallying cry that brown people are coming to this country and black people, and there's a genocide of white people. Not only did Donald Trump retweet white genocide in February 2016, he literally copied the word white genocide from their Twitter account and then posted it in his tweet and then added their entire tweet afterwards. So he didn't just retweet it. He manually copied and pasted the words white genocide and put it. Now, it got press. It didn't get as much press as it deserved. He got press. After David Duke in February 2016 declared, quote, Trump, not voting for Trump is, quote, treason to your heritage. And Donald Trump was asked point blank by Jake Tapper, did you announce David Duke's endorsement? Here was Donald Trump. Quick reminder, clip number one, because these are important reminders.
KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage. Will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
Of course he knows about David Duke. He knows full well who David Duke is. He knows what white supremacy is. And then during that campaign, Donald Trump kicked it off when he came down that escalator, infamously saying Mexico's sending rapists, which they're not. That's a lie. He said Islam hates us. He said a statement during that campaign, December 2015, the most shocking statement I've seen from a modern day leading politician running for president, when he said these words, clip number 2, please.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
That was Donald Trump during a campaign where he was not the incumbent. Sure, he would have been embarrassed if he lost, but he had nothing to lose in the sense of losing his job in the White House like he does now. And no president has lost re-election since 1992 after one term. Donald Trump doesn't want to be in that club. Meaning Donald Trump, as you know and I know, will do anything to stay in office. And I think 2016 gives us an idea of the roadmap he will follow. Again, he just retweeted a vile person from the UK. That his followers who are on that fringe know exactly who Katie Hopkins is. She's well documented on the right. And It would be different. I'm going to be fair here. It would be different if Donald Trump had pivoted during his presidency to try to be president of all the people and did not any longer cater to those on the right. But that didn't happen. Donald Trump defended and equated at Charlottesville in August 2017 those fighting white nationalists and white supremacists with those who are actually white supremacists who are cheering Jews will not replace us. Donald Trump has demeaned black people, leading black Americans, from Maxine Waters and Jay-Z and others, as low IQ, as dumb and unintelligent, again parroting the words of white supremacists who believe in that philosophy, that black people are inherently less intelligent than white people. It's not an accident. Donald Trump demeaned NFL players, calling them son of a bitches for taking a knee. Donald Trump has continued this path as president. And think about it. When you hear Donald Trump talking about how well he's doing in the polls, it's always how well is he doing with the Republicans. His tweet today, Republican enthusiasm. A few weeks ago, he's in the UK sitting next to the Prime Minister of England and asked a question. In that, he brags, I have a 90%, 94% approval rating this morning in the Republican Party. It's never about us, folks. It's only his base. He doesn't care. So he knows what his base wants. It doesn't matter to Donald Trump that right now his approval rating is the lowest of any modern day president at this time in their term, these many days in, except for Jimmy Carter, who lost. You know, before the 2016 election, and this is what makes it so hard to predict what Trump will do in 2020. If you told me a candidate running for president was going to say Mexico sends rapists, to say things like Islam hates us and call for a ban on Muslims, mock a disabled person like Trump did, demonize immigrants, try to define all immigrants by the worst examples, I could have never expect that person to get the Republican nomination, let alone win. So what is he going to do in 2020? How much more is he going to ratchet up this rancid red meat for his base? And add to that, how much more will he use violence once again? Because he needs violence. I'm going to tell you, Donald Trump needs racism, he needs bigotry, and he needs violence to win this election. And if you go like, how do you mean he needs violence? Well, here's Donald Trump from 2016. Let's hear clip number 3. Clip 3.
So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise. I promise. We're not allowed to punch back anymore. I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. Like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily.
Did you hear the crowd cheer when he said, you know, punch him in the face? That's Donald Trump's base, folks. That's not all of them, but that's the most animated part of them. And in 2016, all he had was words he could use to animate his base. Now he can use policy. And he has done that to give them red meat continuously as president. From first the mini Muslim ban that sadly the Supreme Court upheld, to a ban on transgender Americans serving in our military because the evangelical Christians, so-called Christians, like that, to rolling back Obama-era regulations to ensure equality for the LGBT community. Now he can use policy. And today he gave us another example. Last night, actually, at 9:30 after our show, he tweeted, next week, ICE will begin the process of removing millions of illegal aliens. Millions. Trump could have ordered that mass deportation anytime in his presidency, but he announced at the eve of his reelection. And that's not a coincidence, folks. That's because he's giving red meat to his base. He's getting the buffet ready for what they want, deporting millions, as he's promising, of brown people. This is a dream for them. It's beyond the wall. We're going to get rid of the brown people. They're going to be gone. By the way, the largest number of people ever deported by ICE in 1 year was 2012, 409,000 in a year. So millions is not going to happen, but Donald Trump's a liar and he's just trying to give out meat to his base. What is scary are polls. Even Trump knows it. He went after Fox News last night. We were laughing about it because the polls they were showing, their own Fox News poll shows Donald Trump losing. That does not mean he's going to lose. It just means right now, the snapshot of this poll, he's losing. Today, Quinnipiac, which is a very reputable, highly rated poll, did polling in Florida and they released it today. Donald Trump, right before his big rally in Florida, according to this poll, to this time, he's losing to Joe Biden by 9 points. He's losing Florida to Bernie Sanders by 6 points. He's losing Florida to Elizabeth Warren by 4 points. He's losing to Senator Harris and Beto O'Rourke by 1 point. And Buttigieg, the same thing, by 1 point. The longer Trump remains down in the polls, the more desperate and dangerous he gets. I can't predict what he's going to do. I'm telling you, we need a political version of Hannibal Lecter and go like, what's he going to do next? They're like, oh, he's going to eat Nancy Pelosi's liver. Like, well, that actually is plausible at this point. I mean, with Trump, who knows? Anything. A war in Iran? Maybe. Demon, another Muslim ban? Calling for things we can't even think about. Because again, before 2016, could any of you think that a guy running for president is actually going to call for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims coming to this country? Of course not. No one would have thought that. Would anyone think you're going to make fun of a disabled person and still win the election? Of course not. And the sexism and the bragging about sexually assaulting women in the Access Hollywood tape. If you said any of that to anyone before 2016, you're like, that candidate's going to lose. Even adding other things like making fun of John McCain, mocking him as a war hero, you're going to lose. So nothing for Trump is off the table, from getting more help from Russia to demonizing the LGBT community by using policy executive orders. He'll just sign whimsically executive orders to get evangelicals out to vote. Think about his base. Think about what they want. And that might help us predict. Evangelicals the white conservative evangelicals are the most bigoted people I've seen who use the name of Jesus. It's horrible. There are a lot of bigots out there who aren't them, but in using the name of Jesus. So they hate LGBT community. They violate. They'll tell you whatever. A sinner, they are so fearful of them. You expect that. They hate Muslims. Expect something there as well, I would imagine. A lot of his base hates immigrants, brown immigrants especially. They want them out of the country. Expect more of that, of course. But we cannot predict. I have no idea. It's unthinkable what this man might do between now and November 3rd, 2020. For him, the stakes have never been higher. And that's where we are. So let me ask you, and I don't say all this stuff to scare people. I say because we know this is the truth. 2016 tells us this is all the truth. I want us to be ready. To be ready for what we're about to go through as a nation, collectively. And to be there for each other when Donald Trump comes after each of our respective communities. And even if you're in none of the communities he attacks, I hope you're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with your brothers and sisters from other communities. Be it the LGBT community, especially transgender Americans or Muslim Americans or Latino Americans or African Americans. Even if you're not in those communities, let's make a pact together here that we will stand united. When he comes after one of us, we stand together. He's coming after all of us. He's not going to suppress our vote. He's not going to make us not get involved. And they're not going to bully us. And I don't care about Trump supporters. They're showing him on MS Today interviews of Trump supporters saying things like Trump never, literally a woman saying Trump never lies. The media has to stop criticizing him. It's stunning to see that, but I don't care about them. I just don't. I care about our base coming out and reaching those in the middle who believe in American values the way we do. Not Trump values, not Trumpistan, but American values. One where you do not demonize people for their faith or their ethnic background or their immigration status. That we celebrate diversity, we don't fear it. That we don't fear changing demographics as part of the beauty of this nation. These are American values. We don't subscribe to sexism. We don't defend someone who brags about sexually assaulting a woman. And Donald Trump's proven that over and over again as he stood with man after man who's abused women, from Brett Kavanaugh to Roy Moore to his aide Rob Porter, who punched his ex-wife in the face and we saw her with a black eye. This is Trump. That's their values. I don't want them on my side. If that's the values you like, if you like bigotry and racism and sexism and add the corruption, if you like that, I don't want you standing next to me. You want to vote for our Democrat? Fine. I'm not going to try to reach you. No way. I just want our side to be animated and get ready for this election. We are 504 days from the most important election of our lives. So what do you predict Trump's going to do? How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to keep each other strong and motivated from now to November 3rd, 2020 for the most important election of our lives? I'd love to hear from you. 866-997-4748. Give me a call right here on the Dean Obeidallah Show. You are my guest right to the top of the hour. You're listening to the Dean Obeidallah Show, where we crush Trump's lies every single day
on Sirius XM Progress.